Hi friends, and welcome back into my studio. If you are new to my channel, my name is Tammy Ernest and I am a longarm quilter, and here on my channel I like to share customer finishes as well as my own personal projects. And I usually always start out with my own personal things, and I just wanted to share again, this is my square up quilt. I failed to mention last week that this is a free PDF. So you're going to want to go over to the Fat Quarter Shop and get your hands on this quilt pattern. This is the one that I made a sample for the Fat Quarter Shop. I did mine in the Things Above fabric line that is done by Fancy That Design House. Love, 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 love it. And actually I'm going to show you another project I'm going to do in it soon. In just a little bit. So, but this is a free PDF, the square up quilt panel or square up quilt pattern, and it is linked down below, so you'll want to go check that out. I also have my April Sew sampler box, so let me show you what is inside this. This is a subscription box that comes once a month. This is from the Fat Quarter Shop. This is the April box, so I am showing it to you on the very last day of April in 2025, and the theme of this one is just desserts. Now, Fat Quarter Shop is celebrating 9 years of having done a subscription box. So there is a lucky coupon in here. This is like a mystery coupon. Every box received this, so it's a little coupon to say thank you for being a part of it. And then every box contains a pre-cut. So let me show you what the pre-cut is this month. This is the new line by Sherry and Chelsea. Let me open this up. This is called Raspberry Summer, and this is a newer to me pre-cut. I saw it for the first time probably 6 months or so ago, but they call this one, I just wadded it up. What do they call this one? A dessert roll. So we have layer cakes, you have jelly rolls. This is called a dessert roll. So this is 5 inches wide by width of fabric. So, and I'm not sure how many there are. I will look at that in just a second. But so dessert roll. This is their new line called Raspberry Summer. So lots of nice pinks. This has got like a sleeve on it, so I'll pull it down just a little bit. It's just too pretty to unroll. I'd never get it back in that little thing if I undid it. But pinks and some lime green, what I would say, little fruits, little flowers on there. That one's a cute one. Some paisleys on that one. I like that one. That same print in the dark blue. Very pretty. Then the white. That is a fun low volume print. And the red, it's more of a sherbet type of red. Not a bright red, not a deep red. A very fun, playful one. So there's the melon. Here is that same print in the blue. Love this one. Look at that. Oh, sorry about that. That low volume almost has like the flower garden type of print. The red in that one. Like this one too. And then a good gingham. Always good to have a gingham. And then you're back to that pink one. So let me see how many are in. I could count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12 prints in a dessert roll, 5 inches by width of fabric. Very fun. All right, and then there's always a pattern that uses the pre-cut, and this one's Dahlia. It uses the dessert roll. 2 sizes are available, a lap size, a small lap, and a large lap. So the small lap is square, 52 by 52. The large lap is 52 by 68. I like that size. And then all you're needing is your background fabric, and then they do a blue for the binding. So everything you need for the blocks except for the background fabric is in that dessert roll. So a really nice one. Like that one. Very cute. Very cute. All right. Now, on the back of this card, it does have a QR code for a tutorial that Sherry did that uses her fabrics to make a tote bag. And I know you can get to that. You don't have to have this card, but there's just a QR code that takes you straight to that. But Sherry and Chelsea, My Quilting Life, A Quilting Life, they have a YouTube channel, they have a podcast, and shows you how you could use the same fabrics to do a tote bag. And a mention of a tote bag in the box is this cute enamel charm. Look at that. Looks like a Dresden plate. They said Sherry and Chelsea developed this based on that one fabric that I showed you that looked like to me looked like grandmother's flower garden. They're saying it's a Dresden plate with the flowers being the end points. So cute. I love to use these on project bags. So it would be really cute just to make instead of a tote bag, to make a project bag out of this, and to use that as the bling, as they would say. The zipper pull is what I would use it as on a project bag, but so cute. Love, love, love those. All right, what else is included in the box? We have some needles. These are Schmetz Microtex sharp needles, 8012. So it says great for microfibers, polyester, silk, foils, artificial leather, coated materials. They are very thin, acute point, creates beautiful top stitching and perfectly straight stitches for quilt piecing as well. So a set of needles, never a bad idea to have more needles. And then there is a Superior Threads thread spool. And let me tell you about this one. This is a 50 weight natural white cotton, so you can see the color, not a bright white, it's that natural white. 50 weight Pima natural white cotton thread by Superior Threads. This has 1,200 yards on it. Strong 2-ply American grown Pima cotton, both great for both top thread and bobbin thread. So I love to get these spools in here. What I do is I put these in my binding bag. I keep a nice big Aurifil cone for my stitching that I do on my domestic machine. So this isn't something that this would be a great idea to take on a retreat or something like that if you're just needing a small amount of thread, but I keep a big cone on mine. So what I do with these smaller spools is I keep these in my binding bag. And when I'm sitting down doing bindings, like I've been doing a lot lately, then I always have a nice color thread. And sometimes they're colored ones that they send in the box. An aqua blue that I've used several times, a pale pink that I've used several times. And it's usually going along with whatever the pre-cut is, but I love to put these little ones in my binding bag. And then I never have to go search for thread when I'm binding quilts. So you want to check that out if you're in the market for a new spool of thread. If you're wanting to try Superior Threads, now you know I use Superior Threads in all of my long arm quilting. I either use Omni or the So Fine. So I really highly recommend Superior Threads. I enjoy their threads. All right, another thing in the box. I think you're going to like these. These are fabric label stickers. So let me pull this is a nice big pack of these. Does it say how many there are? I don't know, but this is a nice big pack of these. So what these are for is have you ever bought several yards of fabric and you know in your head what you're saving that fabric for, the project that you're going to work on, and then later on you find that fabric and you say, why did I buy this? I cannot remember what I was thinking. This is where the labels come in. So these labels, there's 6 to a sheet, and there have got to be, I bet there's probably 12, 10, 12. It doesn't tell me how many sheets are in here, but a ton of them. And then each one, they're made from they are sticky so that you can stick it. They're not a glossy. It's, I guess I should read about it to tell you. They are sticky on the back, but it says it's a non-residue. It's not going to leave anything on your fabric. So you'll be able to fill out what the name of the fabric is, the collection it's from, the designer, the project that you have planned for it, the size that the fabric is so that you know when you pull it out what the size of that is, and you can mark whether you starched it, yes or no, and whether it's pre-washed, yes or no, if those are important things to you. So here's what the labels look like. 6 to a sheet. I love that they're pretty colors. And you'll be able to mark your fabrics that you buy, and you don't want to forget why you bought them. Let me see if there's anything else. It says no annoying residue left behind. Scribble down all the details and have it for later. Perfect. Great. Doesn't tell me how many are in the package, but I know these are available outside of the sampler box, so you will want to get your hands on those if that's something you will need. Now, the advantage of getting the sampler box is the value of everything in this box. If you tallied it up, it would be much more than the price of the box each month. Now, sometimes they do have a la carte boxes, meaning if all of the subscriptions have been sent out and they still have some available, they'll post those on their website. I will look. I didn't look prior to this. I will look if there's some still available. I will link it down below. Again, your price in buying it a la carte is going to be much higher than it is if you get the subscription each month, but the value of the products is much higher than the cost of the subscription. So I really enjoy these boxes. All right, that is all that's in the box except for one more thing, and that is the new quilt along that starts this month. So April was the month when they first started the sampler box, and that's why the quilt alongs run from April to the following March. And so we just finished up the Peaceful Baskets one. I've got all my blocks done. I just don't have it pieced together yet. And then this one starts the new one. Now on the back of this card, they also mentioned Jolly Bar Day, which is coming up on May the 10th. Fat Quarter Shop is going to have a special live stream that day where Kimberly is sewing along with a Jolly Bar. A Jolly Bar is a pre-cut that's exclusive to the Fat Quarter Shop. It's 5 by 10 inches, so half of a layer cake if you want to look at it that way, or it's taking one of these dessert rolls and cutting them into 10-inch strips. But the Fat Quarter Shop has developed five Jolly Bar books, or you can buy a Jolly Bar pre-cut and it always comes with a pattern. So they are making a special holiday on May the 10th for Jolly Bar Day, so you'll want to be a part of that. Now, let me show you the new quilt along that starts this month. This is using Camille Roskelley's line Summertime, and there is a kit available, and this is what the first block looks like. You may have seen this a couple places already. It's called the Flowering Quilt Along, and it's using Camille Roskelley's fabrics. I have decided not to buy the kit and instead to use for my stash, and I am really doing something totally different, so I'll show you that just in a second. So the first block is this one. Did it have a name? It's the You Grow Girl block, and here's a larger picture of it. So this pattern is included in the sampler box. Each month we'll get one block pattern in there. You can buy these separate, but again, it's going to be much higher than if you're just a part of the box. So there is a kit available for this one. Once they sell out of the kit, my understanding is once they sell out of the kit, they will put out fabric requirements and alternate fabric collections that you can use to do this quilt along. So right now, as far as I can tell, I have not seen the fabric requirements that are needed to do the entire quilt along. So I have this block. I know what's required for this block. I do not know what's required for the entire quilt top. I will continue to look for that because I've decided not to do the kit, but instead to do my own. And let me show you what I have decided to do. I didn't quite get my block done, but I've decided to go totally different. A lot of times when I do a quilt along like this, I will just use the same color fabrics, but use a different designer or use what I have in my stash. And I decided this time I'm going to do something totally different. I'm doing this totally blind at this point because I have no idea what the total fabric requirements are. But I am using the fabrics that I have from the Things Above fabric line from Fancy That Design House. And that's what I'm going to use for this entire quilt along. So right now, I'm going to have to buy a little bit more fabric because I know that the fat quarters I have may not be enough. Now, I had a whole fat quarter bundle when I started this square up quilt, but I only needed 12 of the fat quarters. So I have a good number of fat quarters left over. but some of them, at least for like this block that I was doing here, this block finishes 18.5 by 18.5. So it does use a good amount of fabric. And I didn't have quite enough of this brown, and I didn't realize it till I was already started into it. So I've ordered a little bit more yardage to go along with the fat quarters that I already have. But I am going to use this fabric line to do this entire quilt along. Now the quilt along is called flowering, so I'm assuming they're all going to be flowers. Mine are going to have much more of an autumn feel to them, much similar to this. But I thought, you know, I love this fabric and I just want to try something different. Everybody is seeing how it's done with this one and other choices that would be very similar to this, and I decided to do a little different. Now, if you remember when I was talking about the square up quilt, prior to ever showing you the pattern and things, I had shown you my fabrics, and I had picked out this background fabric. This is a Bella Solid that is recommended to go along with this line. And I purchased, I want to say I purchased 4 yards of this one. So I've got a good amount of this. And then I decided not to use it in the square up quilt. Instead, I went with a tone on tone that was part of that line. So I have this entire amount of background fabric. I'm assuming that's going to be enough for this entire quilt. And then I have a lot of fat quarters left over. So if I would have looked a little carefully, I probably should have chosen a different brown, maybe one that I did not dip into, because I'm thinking I dipped into this one in doing this quilt. And so I didn't have the entire fat quarter. If I had, then I would have been able, all I'm missing is some strips right here. 2 here, 2 here, 1 here. That's all I'm missing. So it's very minimal. But I didn't have quite enough to finish it up. So very, very cute. You see that block? Love the colors of this one. So mine's going to have a totally different look. And at this point, because I don't know what the fabric requirements are, I don't know if the whole quilt is red and green. I'm assuming not, because the summertime line has a lot of other fabric colors in it. So we'll see where it goes. You may love it. You may hate it by the time I'm done. I may love it. I may hate it by the time I'm done. I don't know. But block number 1 of the flowering quilt along, and that is in the Sew Sampler box. So if you are not a part of the Sew Sampler box, I have put a link down below. You'll want to get your hands on this box every month. I so enjoy. It's like my little present to me each month. I love seeing that that teal color box show up. Usually on my porch is where it comes, and I love to have that. So fun. Another thing I'm starting next week is the Scrappy Americana flag. This is a pattern and fabrics developed by Lori Holt. This starts next week, May the 9th. So you'll need to get your fabrics ready. If you want to use your own patriotic fabrics or your own red, white, and blue fabrics, perfectly fine. Just grab your pattern. This is a nice big booklet. How many pages? 22 pages in the booklet. So it's a nice big booklet. There is foundation paper. If you are a person who enjoys foundation paper, there's a whole foundation paper kit where they include all of the different sizes of foundation papers that you would need. They are listed on the back here. And I do think they may be listed on the website, so you know whether you have what you need or not. I'm a traditional piecer. I don't do a lot of foundation paper. So I'm going to be doing it the traditional way, and those directions, as far as I know, yes, in the description or in the pattern, they give you directions for foundation paper, and they give you also the directions for the traditional method. So whichever way you use or whichever way you enjoy piecing, you'll be able to do that. So grab your pattern for that. I have all my fabrics. I think I've shown these to you. This is all Lori's Americana line. Now again, some of these, some, you know, you'd say, yes, those are patriotic prints. Others are just reds or just blues. And so if you're looking for some good reds or blues, look at this line. There may be some piecing, you know, some fabrics that you like in here that maybe you're not even doing Americana quilt, but would be great. I love the bandana one, which would just be some great pieces for other quilts as well. This is one of my favorites, the musical score on there, and I believe, I haven't got my backing fabric yet. I just ordered it today, and I think that's the backing set that they recommend is that one. All right, so May the 9th, we are starting this. So this is once a month. They tell you the blocks to finish for that month. So on May the 9th, it says the 4-patch stripe blocks, and I believe you are making 12 of those. So all 5.5-inch blocks. So you're making 12, and then you can see the stripes, the red stripes and the white stripes. Those are all 5-inch blocks. And actually, even the what's that called? I cannot think. The blue part. Oh my goodness, you're gonna be yelling at me. Okay, even those that's pieced together. That's not all the same colors, blues there. So, but the stripes are all made up of 5-inch blocks. So we're making 12, 6 red and 6 white of the 4-patch blocks. We're starting out super simple. They are strip pieced, so they're gonna go super fast. Now some months there's more. The second month it is the pinwheel block. And let me see. Oh, no, there's 12 of those too. So maybe that's about what you're doing each month is 12. Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking there was some. No, it looks like each month there's 12 blocks, all 5-inch blocks. Very fun. So once a month, and this schedule is out. I will link that down below. It does give you the fabric requirements if you're wanting to use your own fabrics. Shows you how many different colors you're needing, the amounts of yardage that you're needing for all of those. And I will link this down below. But this schedule is out. So May the 9th, we're doing the 4-patch blocks. And then just once a month, we're doing another set of blocks. So this will be done next February is the quilt center and finishing it. So excited to start that. I did work very diligently on my Hometown Holiday Sampler quilt. I have all the letters done. I have most of the rows together. I've got all the piecing cut out for the what I call the stitch line. It's the blue and white pieces that go all the way across. I have all the blocks cut for that. I just have to stitch those together. So I'm hoping next week to have that whole quilt top together to show you. So you'll want to stay tuned for that. One other thing I wanted to share with you before moving on to customer quilts was a new tool that I got in my sewing room. I am one of those long arm quilters that I am able to, with my machines, to use canned air to spray out the bobbin case inside my machine. Now, you will need to check with your instructions, your instruction manual, your manufacturer of your machine to see whether you are able to use canned air to clean out your bobbin case and the whole area underneath the sewing machine. My Amara, I'm able to. The old HQ16 that I had prior to the Amaras was not able to be, you were not to use canned air because the backing of the bobbin case was open to the rest of the machine, and so it was not good to be blowing that the lint and everything into the rest of the machine. With the Amara, and I think some of the newer machines, they've closed off that bobbin casing so that all the lint just stays right there. It cannot get into the machine. So I used canned air. And I just realized lately, it's like, I am buying too much canned air. I go through canned air like some of you go through starch. I'm not a starcher. I did it for my Hometown Holiday Sampler quilt. It was okay. The one thing I did like was that my seams are, when I press them, they're staying. I did like that part. I don't think I'll starch. I've been quilting for 20 plus years and have never starched, and so it's kind of hard to teach an old dog new tricks. So, but I go through canned air like many of you go through starch, and I thought there has to be something different. Sometimes I could find it at my local store, sometimes I couldn't. So my original plan, I was going on Amazon, like most of us. I was going on Amazon to see if I couldn't just do like a bulk purchase of canned air, just so I could have it here and not run out. And I thought, no, wait a minute, there's got to be something, some little tool, that's electric or that's battery that just blows air. I could find something. So I ended up purchasing this on Amazon. I'll link it down below, but I have absolutely loved this. So I originally got it because I wanted the blowing air part of it. This is actually, it says a multifunction vacuum cleaner. It is, I think it was marketed for small machinery is what you're using it for. So it does do suction, but it also does blowing air as well. And so this is what it looks like. Now I've got 2 attachments on here, so I'll take those off. So this is what the picture looks like on here. So this is rechargeable. So it's got the USB-C, not the USB, I think is what it is. It's whatever the new iPhone is that I got. I know it's the same one. But it does come with those cords, so all you need is the box to plug it in. Let me just show you so I don't say that wrong. So this is the end that plugs into this, and then it goes into a USB port. So that is, and that comes with it. All right, so this is what it is. This end is the suction part. So I have attachments that can go on the front of this, and this is normally what I keep on here all the time. I have a brush attachment on here as well, just because I like to kind of brush lint around to see, but you can see how it's that kind of a suction there. And then this just slips on the end. I think there's some others. Yeah, there's a vacuum. You know what'd be good? Do my stairs. Do the stairs to my house, because I love my vacuum cleaner. We call it a sweeper. This has been one of those things that as your kids marry into other families, you realize that not everybody calls the things what you call them. We sweep the floor. We've always swept the floor. You know, could you go sweep the floor? That means get out the vacuum cleaner and sweep the floor. And we call it a sweeper, okay? Not all the in-laws call it a sweeper. That's a vacuum. So if you want to use the vacuum cleaner, you are vacuuming. You're not sweeping. If you're sweeping, you're using a broom. And so we have this constant conversation. So, but I love my vacuum cleaner, but when it's in the upright position, the beater bar doesn't go. And which is when I had the same brand before, and when it was in the upright position, the beater bar would go. And one time I was trying to clean up high, and I set the vacuum cleaner on a folding chair that had, it was a metal folding chair, but it had like, I don't know, what was that? Like, it was an old one. It wasn't canvas. It was like a vinyl. There you go. It had like a vinyl cover on the seat, and because that beater bar was going, I tore up the vinyl on that on that folding chair. So I love my vacuum cleaner in that now it's in the upright position, the beater bar, but I have a hard time I have carpet on my stairs, and so I'm lugging that vacuum cleaner, you know, and it's not doing the job I want. This would be a lot easier to use and probably would do just as good as my vacuum cleaner. Sorry, that was a long rabbit hole. Another thing, Maggie sent a picture yesterday with frozen, they were hot dog buns. They'd been frozen in her freezer. You know, we did that. You know, you buy extra, you put them in the deep freeze, pull them out when you need them. And she showed a picture of the frozen hot dog buns in the package hanging from the cabinet door. And it's got a laughing face. She says, "Why do we hang our frozen bread from the cabinet?" She says, Spencer walked by and looked at it and thought, "Maggie, why are we hanging frozen bread from the cabinet?" And she's like, "I didn't have an answer. All I could say was, that's the way Mom did it, you know?" So I'm just laughing because we always did that. And the reason was, and actually my husband tells me, my dad, he remembers that we did that when I was growing up, and that's been too long ago. My husband remembers coming to my house when we were dating and seeing the bread hanging from the cabinet door. So it's not just me that started it, it was my parents that started it. But you'd pull the bread out of the deep freeze, and so that it didn't get soggy, as it thawed sitting on the counter, we would hang it from the cabinet door. My kids have always seen me do that, so they think that's what you do when you pull bread out of the freezer, is you hang it from the cabinet door. So she sends this message and says, "I don't know why." She's like, "We're laughing, Spencer." She's like, "Spencer, I don't know why we do it. That's the way my mom did it, so that's why I did it." So that's why if you ever come to my house or my kids' house, or now my kids know the reason you hang frozen bread from the cabinet, you know, you're just putting the end, you know, like where the twist tie is, you're just putting the end of it in the cabinet, and then you're shutting the cabinet so that the bread hangs there so it doesn't get soggy as it thaws out. I don't know how that, okay, that was back to the vacuum and the sweeper, right? Okay. Vacuum. All right, so that is the vacuum side of it, okay? The other side blows air out. So this is sucking the air in. This side is blowing the air out. I like this part even better than the vacuum side. That's not it. I got it in my lap here. All right, so there is an attachment. Now I could just use this. It's like kind of like a hair dryer, you know. But there's this attachment that can go on the back, just snaps in there. It has a nozzle end on here, so it blows air out just like the forced air, the canned air does. Then you also have a couple little brushes. I think there's a couple, maybe just one. Here's a different type of nozzle too. I'm not exactly sure why it has that on the end, but a different nozzle, and that one fits on that side too. Anyway, it has this little brush. So normally what I do when I'm cleaning out the underneath side of my long arm, or in the bobbin case, is I will sweep up, I will vacuum up as much as I can from this side, okay? But this is kind of bulky. There's only so much you can get in there. So when I turn it on, I do this side, and then I flip it around, and I blow out whatever needs to be blown out with the other side. I love it. I've had this thing over a week now. Whew. I've not had to charge it. It was charged when it came in the box. I can feel lint on my face. It came charged when it was in the box. I've had it over a week. I've used it every day since then. I have not had to charge the thing yet at all, but not that it's a big deal. I'm so excited. I don't have to buy canned air anymore. This one, it does have the filter, so I can pop that off and then pull this out and clean. You can see how much lint I have collected. And I can throw that away. There's a trash can down there. And it goes in this way. There are two of these little filters in the box. And it does give you instructions to know when should you clean that filter. You know, obviously I just cleaned the lint out of it, but how to actually clean the filter if you need to. Oops, I did it upside down. And snap it back on. Here's the little power button right there. So I love it. I absolutely love it. I've really, really enjoyed it. I just keep this in my cart. You can see my cart back there. I just keep it on the top of my cart. And I usually have both attachments on there, so I can vacuum out what I need to and then spray out with the other end. And it looks kind of wild there, but I have loved this. So I will link this down below. It was on Amazon, you know, comes in 2 days and all that good stuff. But if you are one that uses forced air to clean out your machine, you may want to check this out. So, all right, that's all I have for my personal things this week. Let's move on to some customer quilts. I have a couple of quilts from Jane to share with you, and this first one she said she created on her own. These are butterflies that she has appliqued onto a large white piece of fabric and then surrounded by a couple of borders. So all different fabrics, and they all have the buttonhole stitch around them to do the applique. So it starts down on the bottom and just floats right up to the very top. They get smaller and smaller. I don't know if you can see the very small one up there. All different fabrics. And Jane has done this a couple times with some heart quilts that I have done for her. And so this is the first one that's done butterflies. It's really, really cute. The size on this one is 60 by 74, so it is a nice size quilt. On the back, she has done a flannel, a striped flannel, very soft and very nice. The pantograph I chose for this one is called Soho. And I did this in a white thread so that it blends in with the white fabric here. I don't have fabric, I don't have names of fabric or anything. These are all solids. The white and the two blues are just solid colors. So any Kona or Bella solid, anything like that would work great. And back to the pantograph. The pantograph is called Soho. I liked that it added some swirls to it, kind of mimics the whole idea of the butterflies just swirling on up. So Soho does a circle, comes in like this, 2 circles, comes out, and it just does a point, and then it comes back and does the same circles and a point down. So I think you can see how that is doing it. So circles, comes out and point, circles, and comes down and point. Now I did make this fairly large. So the Soho shape itself is probably a good probably 4 inches tall. I did make it fairly large. I just wanted to keep it just very flowy, not tight and dense, just very flowy, just with the theme of it. And the flannel on it keeps it very soft on the back. And so just a very pleasing quilt here. And I use the Omni Natural White to blend in with the white fabrics. So you do notice it on the borders a little bit, and it blends right in with the flannel. A flannel is very similar in a little way to Minky, where Minky just, you lose your stitches, you can't see them at all. Flannel, a little higher nap, a little thicker, a little softer. You do see the stitches, but they do soak into that flannel just a tad bit. So very, very cute. Now Soho is one of those pantographs. I think this is a great one. If you're a new beginner to digital long arm, I would purchase this Soho pattern. I think it's one that can be used on a lot of different quilts. There's no fussy points to match up. It nests in well together. You can make it very large. You can make it very small. It's so many uses on it, and a good practice with making, if you wanted to do it on a quilt where you want more density and making, shrinking that pantograph and making it very small, something you're wanting more just flowy and soft, stitches out very easily. And you can do it a little larger like I did here, but a great pantograph just to have in your back pocket. It can be used on so many different types of quilts and adds good texture, good coverage, but isn't fussy at all to stitch out. So that is Jane's first quilt. Jane's second quilt has such a neat story. So I had asked Jane, I'd sent her a text and I said, do you have any information on fabrics or pattern? And she said, she didn't give me any information on the fabrics. Again, they're all the same line, it looks like. Not quite batik, they are cotton, but some blues and greens and a little darker black with blues. And then the white is a solid white. But the pattern, she says, all the pattern says is untitled. She says, I don't know that there's a name of it. And so she sent me a picture of it. And I said, well, Jane, that is untitled, is what would print out on EQ8 if you didn't give a title to your quilt. I said, where did you get this pattern? Because somebody's obviously designed this in EQ. Actually, it was EQ7. I could tell by the code at the very bottom of the sheet that it was actually done in EQ7, which means it's done fairly long ago, because EQ8 is the latest version and that's been out for quite a while. So somebody had designed this quilt in EQ7, and Jane said a neighbor gave her the pattern when they were cleaning out, they were moving away, and gave her the pattern. And I said, so did you have instructions with it? And she said yes. So somebody has spent the time to create this pattern in EQ7, written out instructions, and then just passed it on to Jane, and didn't name it, as far as I know, didn't publish it. I don't know. So great job. I'm just, so if you are watching this and this is a quilt pattern that you created, let me know, because people are making the quilt and you need to publish that pattern. So Very large quilt. This is basically square, 96 by 97, and all done in squares. You can see the sashing that is done in between every square. But if you go back and look at the large picture of the entire quilt top, you can see that X shape that is created in the piecing of this quilt. So it comes together here in the center. You can see the point. So the X is this darker, the darker fabrics right here. And that's creating that X shape when you look at it in a large fashion. Those are created with, here it's created with half square triangles, actually everywhere. Half square triangles, half square triangles, half square triangles. Yeah, that's creating that right there. And then this is stripped piece, so it's the lines of fabric. Maybe you can see it better here. Let me do it over here. You can see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 strips of fabric joined together, and then you have the half square triangle, and then the same thing here, but it's flipped the other way so that you're getting that X shape. Here in this block we have like an Irish chain type of look to it. You're using the darker fabrics, which are part of the X shape there, and then the lighter ones in there create that the Irish chain look also running through the quilt. Down here we kind of flip it a little bit, and we have the Irish chain running through there, but with the dark prints. So fun. I just think this is so pretty. So pretty, very subtle, and if you're in close you don't see it. So I may be saying it backwards, like you know, if I'm getting my colors backwards, I apologize, because it is one of those things. Yeah, so is it the light colors that's creating the X, or is it the dark creating the X? Maybe it's the light ones that are creating the X. I'm gonna have to go back and look at the picture myself. Anyway, with those half square triangles, you're getting that whole X shape from top to bottom, the corners in there. You've got Irish chain in there as well. Just a fascinating block. You do have some that are just solid blocks, but she's done such a great job. I just think it's so pretty. And then all of the white sashing in between. Now, around the edges, let me pull this in. Outside that last sashing, there are 5-inch squares all the way around the quilt. So you're using all of the fabrics that are used in the center, and then a very large border around the outside edge. Very cute. The backing fabric, again, I don't have names of fabric, but you can see this mottled blue and turquoise print. And that you may be able to see the pantograph a little better. This pantograph is called Cottonwood. Now, this is not the same cottonwood that Julie Hurt does, which is a very dense, tight quilting. This one is cottonwood, and it mimics like the cotton boll type of look on the plant. So let me set my paper over here. So hopefully you can see that. So the cotton boll, it does like a paisley type of loop in there, and then you just have the petaled flowers around that paisley loop, and then it spins out. Just a little bit of a kick out there, and then it goes right into the next cotton boll shape there. I did make this very large again. I didn't, knowing Jane's style and just the tone of the quilt, the feel of the quilt, I didn't think that this needed some very tight, dense quilting. I mean, it's really good coverage, so you don't have a lot of open spaces, but the design itself is very large. So let me flip it over on this side. Those mottled fabrics, it's a little harder to see, but a nice big design. I did use light gray thread on this one. I felt the tone of the quilt was a little dimmer, a little subdued, calming, and Jane said this is going on her bed, so just wanted a little subdued. So you're going to notice the light gray a little bit more in the white sashing here, but I felt it kept the whole feeling of the quilt, just subdued and calm. I felt like a white or a cream was just going to pop some color that I didn't feel was in this quilt. And again, especially because the backing fabric is very dark as well. If the backing fabric had been a white fabric, then I may have chosen a white thread on the top. But the light gray, you can see on this turquoise print, just blends right in. You really don't even see it, and just keeps the quilting as a secondary design to this whole quilt. When you walk into the room, you're going to see this quilt laying on the bed, and you're going to see that distinct X shape on there. Now, Jane also did a couple of pillow shams, and here are, let me just set this up here. So here are the pillow shams. So a large inner section that's that turquoise, and then similar to the half square triangles, there's 5 strips of fabric right there, and she has joined those onto the 4 corners, and then white sashing around the edges of that. Now, when she brought these two, so there are 2 of these, and exact same thing. When she brought these to me, the backing fabric that she chose for these was white. Now, because I had already done the quilt top in a light gray, I did stick with the light gray for doing the pillow shams as well. So the fronts of them are going to match the quilt. You're going to have the light gray on the white, just like we have on the quilt. Being a pillow sham, this part is going to be on the inside of the pillow. You're not even going to see it because she'll be creating the pillow sham with it. So this is just the front of the pillow sham. So she'll be creating that whole envelope type of backing on there for the pillows to go inside. So even though I did a light gray thread on the back, this is not going to be seen. I don't think it looks bad. You know, light gray on the white, I kind of like it, but it's not even going to be seen. It's going to be on the inside of the pillow sham. Now, when she brought that backing fabric to me, it was actually a very wide piece. It was lengthwise, it was whatever this size is. Let me see. This, the shams measure 26 by 35, so 26 this direction. So the backing fabric that she sent was probably 35, I don't know. And then it was very, very long, so which I really appreciated, because then what I could do is I loaded that backing fabric for these in one long strip, so like this. The backing fabric was loaded one time in one long strip like this, and then I loaded the 2 pillow shams onto the bar at the very this bar on the front, and then did my plumb line across the top, and then started the pillowcases at the exact same spot. They're the exact same size, but I started the pillowcases the exact same horizontal line, and then I actually did a space, an area on my machine that was the entire width of both pillow shams. So there was a section in the middle that was about this wide, that there actually was a seam that ran down there. But this was just open white fabric, and I went ahead and stitched all the way across it. So I was able to start at one end and stitch all the way across, and then all the way across again, doing both pillow shams at once. Now, because there was a seam right here, the batting that I used was a little short, and I'll talk about batting in just a second. It was a little short, so I actually cut the batting in half so that my batting stopped right here. The other batting stopped right here. I did have a seam from the backing fabric that was right down the middle, so I did stitch that down. I didn't want my machine to get caught on that seam, because it was facing up. You know, I didn't want to get caught. Normally, if the batting was all the way across, I wouldn't even have to do that, because I based down the sides of both of the pillow shams, so I was able to go from one right to the other. I was going to talk about batting. I've had a request that I mention the batting that is used in each of these. And so this was Quilter's Dream cotton batting. Jane did purchase that from me, and for this quilt and also for the butterfly quilt. So Quilter's Dream cotton batting. I do carry Quilter's Dream batting in my studio, so if you don't want to send your batting along, that's what I have available for purchase. I do carry both 80/20 and 100% cotton. I do have the natural color, and I also have the white color. White is a little more expensive than the natural color, but on some quilts you may just want white, especially if it's a lot of white on the front of your quilt, where you may feel like the natural's going to dim it a little bit. So I do carry all of those. And so that's how I did the pillow shams, and did the exact same pantograph as I did on the quilt top. So everything matches, it's all very cohesive, and I think it's just going to look beautiful on her bed. So again, if you want to design your own quilts, EQ8, I have a link down below. You want to check that out. That's where you can design your own patterns just like this. And you will need to write the instructions to go with it if you're wanting to pass it on to someone else. It'll give you cutting instructions. It gives you your fabric requirements. And all of that kind of thing, but the actual instructions where it says join this one to this one, that's what you need to do. You need to write that out. If it's just a pattern for yourself, then you can figure it out. No need to write it out. But name your patterns and sign them. So if you pass those on to somebody else, then we know who to give the credit to. So those are Jane's quilts today. This beautiful quilt was made by Rissa, and I just love this pattern. So the fabric line, I'll talk about the pattern in just a minute. The fabric line on this is Love Note, which was a 2021 release done by Lella Boutique. She does have, her current line is called Love Notes, a little bit different, but if you're wanting to create this pattern in a similar fabric line, that would be the one to go to. So Lella Boutique, Love Note collection. The quilt itself is a pattern by Kitchen Table Quilting, and it is called the Hazel quilt. And here is a picture of the pattern front. This is fat quarter friendly, and it does, the pattern comes in 3 sizes. It comes in baby, twin, and lap size. Love the colorway that's done on the cover, and I love this one too. This one would just be so beautiful in so many different fabric lines. To me, this one kind of looks like sherbet. I know I said that wrong, but it just looks like sherbet to me, like a fun summer afternoon. Oh, another thing I wanted to show you. If you go onto Kitchen Table Quilting, you can buy this pattern as a PDF or as paper, but for free, you can download the coloring pages so that you can figure out where you want to place your fabric swatches. And this is done in every size. So here's the baby size, the twin size, and the lap size. So you can do a little coloring to kind of figure out where you want your blocks placed. Now, I have not seen this pattern, so I don't know exactly how it's put together. But what I want you to notice is you have a block right here. You have the star shape. At the very edges of the star shape, you have this flying geese unit that is in the black. Now, right next to that, so over here I have one, but coming up over here, or down here, I have one as well. So where there's those 4 meet, one up here, then I get this secondary design with those flying geese units all coming together. So there would be so many different ways to approach this quilt. I could see it being done as blocks, and then done with some sashing almost, you know, like where you're creating a block and a block, but we have this sashing in between, but it's going to have to be planned out because that sashing is then creating another block down here. So I'm not exactly sure. And again, I love that in a designer, that a pattern intrigues me enough that I would want to see how she's put it together, because there are many different ways that you could do this. Was it done in, you know, smaller strips and then all those strips put together? It's hard for me to tell. I would have had a better idea if I would have looked at it on the back side, because that gives me a better indication of where seams are joined and that kind of thing. I didn't do that with this quilt, and I almost wish I had. So the fabric line is very pretty. This Love Note collection, you have the pinks, the mauves, it's almost an olive type of green, but then some lighter greens in there as well. You have stripes and zigzags. I'm not sure if this black line, I should have looked it up. I'm not sure if this black print is in that, or if Rissa chose a black print so that you get that secondary effect. And just like you see on the pattern front, that those black prints are what create that secondary effect. So I'm not sure if this is part of that line or not. So very, very pretty, very soft, just a beautiful quilt. And then the backing fabric, she did use, this is from that same line, and then she did some more piecing across the back, just in the center of it, used some half square triangles, some other, and maybe they're left over. I don't see too many half square triangles on the quilt front, so I'm sure she's joined those together and then just used extra strips, things that she's had left. Now I did say that this pattern, or the pattern says that it's fat quarter friendly, so I'm assuming a lot of these, you know, the length of these and the shape of these were parts of the fat quarter bundle that were left over. Great use of it. You know, if you don't use all of your fat quarter bundle, then put them together in a pleasing design, split your backing fabric in half and put that piece in the middle, or do it in a third or something like that. I did want to show you on the back side, I think it's on this side, Rissa did, now where is it? Oh yes, it's up here. So Rissa did take a little bit of what appears to be the selvage to me. It says, spread a little love wherever you go. And I'm guessing that this was on the selvage of the fabric. And she has stitched it into the seam line across the top. And then she just stitched it down with just a little straight stitch around the edges. I can see just a little bit of the fraying at the bottom, which makes me know that it was the edge of the selvage. But what a great little, you know, addition to the back of this quilt. It's just so cute, just to add that little note there. That's going to be very special. Pantograph on this one, she did ask for espresso. And espresso is such a pretty design, especially on this quilt. It gives it a very soft, feminine feel. Espresso, very tight swirls, not big, chunky, open areas. Everything is very skinny, I guess I want to say. So it comes in, you do your paisley shape, and it very tight back, echo back with that. You have a swirl, it comes into a point, very skinny spin back out. It does cross over itself so that you get that ribbon effect. So if you are stitching by hand on a long arm, if you make like a wave type and you echo that underneath it, you're still getting a wave type of look. If you do a wave and then as you're coming back, you cross over that line, go above the wave, cross down and go below the wave and above it again, then you're getting this ribbon effect. It has the feel that that whole line of stitching is like twisting on itself, and very pretty. So you can get different designs using the same motion. I mean, the wave motion or whatever you're doing, the same motion, but just going a little higher or a little lower when you're echoing it back. And you can do the same thing when you're doing a spiral. So if you do a spiral and you come into a point and you just echo it back out, you're getting just a spiral. You can do that in different ways. You can, not come to a point, but kind of round it, or how big you come and spin out, how big that swirl is coming around. Espresso does it very skinny. So it comes in and does a swirl, comes to a point, and it does it very tight, but then it crosses over that line. So it looks like that, that ribbon is what it makes it look like. It makes it look like a ribbon is just flipping over on itself. And then it comes out, does several tight swirls again, just very dainty, very soft. I did use the Omni Natural White thread on this one. Lots of white background fabric, and just wanted to keep the whole thing very pristine. It just feels very clean and very, very bright, very feminine, very almost English, like an English tea party or something. So just incredible. I really like this design. I really like the pattern. The fabrics are beautiful. This quilt could be done reproduction. It could be done red, white, and blue. I mean, there are so many things you could do with this pattern. It's a great one. I love kitchen table quilting. I so enjoyed the patterns that I've seen, client quilts that have come in using the patterns from her. Very, very nice. I've really enjoyed the patterns, and I've not done one myself, so I'm not sure how well they're written, but evidently they must be doing well because I get quite a few quilts in that have been made using those patterns. So Rissa's quilt, I did not tell you, just what size of it. Size of this one is 72 by 90, so a nice twin size. On this one, I did use Quilter's Dream 100% cotton batting. Now, this one, I did use the white batting on this one. And I probably would have used a natural in normal settings. I don't think that this is one that you're going to see any natural come through that white. The size of it is why I went with the white one, because the length, which I could have switched up, but right now I have cotton ones. Right now I have natural rolls in the queen size, and I have white rolls in the king size. So just depending on what I have at the time is which roll I use, because this is 72 by 90. So if I was cutting batting off of a queen roll for this one, I would do the 90 lengthwise, and the 72 would fit within the 94 of what a queen roll is. A king roll is 120 wide, so if I was cutting this off of a king roll, I would do it 72 wide, and then my 90 length of it would fit within that 120. Actually, I don't do it just the 72. I always add, I ask my clients to send me 8 inches wider than the quilt top, so on this one I would cut it at 80. The quilt top measures 72 by 90, so I would cut it 80, and then the width of the batting. Honestly, from when I am cutting batting, I usually go about 10 inches, just so that I don't have any shifting, I don't have any, oops, I cut it, didn't cut quite straight, you know, something like that. So I always ask clients to send me at least 8 inches larger, but even when I'm cutting batting for myself or for client quilts, I go a little bit larger than that. Just the insurance makes me feel good. So, Quilter's Dream 100% cotton batting is what I used in this one. It does have the white batting inside of there. So very, very pretty, and just think Rissa did a great job. Done by Mary, and this is the 2022 designer mystery block quilt that the Fat Quarter Shop does. So the way this program works is you sign up, and each month they send you a block that is created by a different designer, and then they send you the fabrics so that you can create that block. So there are 12 blocks. It runs for 1 year. This is 2022. There is a new one coming up in 2025 starting June. So you'll want to get your name in to start that in June. It says the designers that are featured in this year's designer mystery are Corey Yoder, Camille Roskelley, Sherry McConnell, Chelsea Stratton, Joanna Figueroa, Lisa Bonjean, Heather Briggs, Bridget Heitland, that's from Zen Chic, and Jackie McDonald of Sweet Fire Road, Robin Pickens, Stacey Yetsu, I don't say that very well, and Vanessa Goertzen from Lella Boutique. So those are your 12 designers. Each one creates a block, a pattern for a block, and each month you'll receive one of those plus your fabrics, and you create the design for that month. And then at the end, they give you the finishing instructions, and you can put it all together. So notice with Mary's quilt, so the 12 blocks that were the designer mystery ones, you have one at the very top that you can't see. Then there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, skip this one, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then 12 at the bottom. So all of the other blocks are setting blocks. And so you have 5 of these, 1 here in the center, and then 4 on each corner. I like the low volume. And if you go back and look at the pictures of the entire quilt, you can really see this whole pattern pop up. I love, love this quilt because when you're in close, you're seeing the individual blocks, you're seeing the quilting, and then when this is laid out on a bed, you're going to see that bigger design of the star, and I just love it. So how they create that, is with the log cabin blocks that you're seeing. So you're creating 2, 4, 6, 8 of these as well. And so there is one, the log cabin block where it's all colored, the blues and the greens on this side, the star in the middle, all whites on this side. But then when that is joined with this one next to it, then you get that star. You'll have to go back and look at the whole picture. That's how you get that star shape in the whole quilt pattern, and it's just beautiful. The fabric on this line is Nantucket Summer, and this was a line that Camille Roskelley put out several years ago. It is being brought back this summer, I believe in July. So again, if you missed out on this fabric line the first time around, you're going to want to get your reservation in for the next one. So I've put a link down below where you can get your name in for you can reserve your own fat quarter bundle or whatever size of pre-cuts or yardage that you are wanting, so that when that fabric comes in, you're sure to get some. So one of Camille Roskelley's just beautiful lines that she put out, and the blues, the greens, the whites, the pale blue here. It's just a beautiful, beautiful line. Her shoreline fabric was very similar, but I think Nantucket Summer was even more popular than the shoreline one. So 12 blocks, 12 designer blocks, designed by different designers, and then you have your 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 setting blocks that then create this beautiful quilt. So the quilt ends up measuring, I believe it was 80 by 80. Yeah, 80 by 80, so a square quilt. And then for the pantograph, Mary asked that she doesn't like anything floral, didn't want Baptist fan. So I sent her some ideas, and she chose marmalade. And this is what marmalade looks like. So very swirly, very nice chunky swirl with the bubbles, and then also the paisley on there. And so you can see how that stitched out, and I just think it's so darling. It adds a lot of playfulness and fun and just classiness to this quilt. So I did use the Omni natural white thread on this one. Obvious choice with the white background, the very bright white light whole look to this quilt. You didn't want to dim it with anything, any colored at all. So the white just adds the texture on there with the pantograph. I did not make this super tight. Mary didn't want it so tight that the quilt was stiff. So we did enlarge it, larger than my hand here is one pass. Now this does nest up very nicely with the rows above it. You can see how this, the row comes up here, dips down here, up. And so the rows do nest in nicely together. Nice size circles, the bubbles in here, nice size paisley or feather motif. And then the swirl is one of those that when it comes in, it stays nice and chunky, almost like the end of your finger, stays nice and rounded there as it comes into that inner swirl there and there. This one's just a little smaller. So very, very pretty. The backing fabric is again part of that same line, and this one's coming out again this summer as well, so the whole line is. A very busy print. I love the larger floral on the back. Camille Roskelley does this a lot. I would say this is probably one of her medium florals. She's got an even larger that she tends to do on some quilts as well. So a classy Camille Roskelley color scheme, so soft, so just calming, and the whole colors of this one and the fabrics are just beautiful. Mary did a wonderful job. So if you're wanting to get in on this year, you'll want to put your reservation in. I have seen the picture of the front, and I don't remember, maybe this will tell me. This year the fabric collection is Abloom by Corey Yoder. So if you've seen that fabric line, you'll enjoy that one as well. So that's this year's. It does start in June, so you'll want to get your name in soon if you're wanting to do that. But that is Mary's quilt, and it's just beautiful. This is Jeannie's quilt, and this is such a cute quilt. This is called Orange Crush, and this is a pattern by Moda, created by, the designer's name is Lori Simpson for Moda. And I think it's got that 30s vibe, you know, but also very summery. So it does use American Jane fabric, so that's probably why it has that 30s vibe to it. So the fabric line that she used is called Bubble Pop, and that is done by American Jane for Moda. And that is the fabrics that you're seeing on these squares here. This is a solid, and it's an orange solid, obviously, and it feels like a quilter's linen is what it feels like. Very fun. It just really shows off the quilting very nicely, and I really like that as I was stitching this out. So you can see the blocks are set on point, and you have a 16 patch right here and a 16 patch right here, and then you're alternating that with some solid blocks. And so all of this fabric line is from that Bubble Pop. You'll notice in the 16 patch you do have this the same light print here. This is a white with black polka dots, and that is what is called for in the pattern. You can see that actually this may have come as a kit or something, because the exact fabrics that are on the front of the pattern are what Jeannie used for her quilt. So fun. So this measures 78 by 78. It does say that you can use a layer cake, so a 10-inch square. Then you'll need the white on black or whatever you choose to do, and then 4 yards of your solid color here. So the blocks are set on point, which means that you do have setting triangles. But then the border is the same as that solid fabric all the way around. So it really blends so nicely that it's very, just very pretty. I really like that. I like that cohesive design by putting the same border all the way around the edge. If I didn't mention 78 by 78, and your squares, I assume these are 5-inch blocks, because if you're using a layer cake, that's the best way to do it. You'll be able to cut one piece of layer cake either into where you're getting 2 of these and then using the rest of them in the rest of the fabric or rest of the pattern, or perhaps there's the other 2 of these are somewhere. I didn't sit and figure that out, all of that, to figure out how she did that. The backing fabric is also from that line. Let me flip this over because I do want to show you something about the backing. So on Jeannie's backing, she did an orange stripe right down the middle of the backing fabric. Now, I've talked about before how I usually like to do horizontal seams, meaning that if I was going to load this backing on the long arm, I would prefer this this orange section to be running this way on the bars. The reason is because you've got one long seam here, one long seam here. If I run those seams horizontal on the bar, they all hit the bar at the same time, meaning it's the same thickness on the entire bar. If I load it the way you're seeing it now, then it's thicker right here where these 2 seams are, and it's going to continue to build and build and build as I rotate that quilt. However, because this backing, this orange strip was right down the middle of the backing fabric, if I load it horizontally, I have a much harder time centering the quilt top on that stripe. So with this one, I did load it just as you're seeing it here, and the reason is because then when I so if I load the backing first, and I can tell exactly where that orange stripe is, then when I put the quilt top, when I go to pin it on to the bars, I know right where the center of my quilt top is, I know right where the center of this line is, this orange section is, and I can center the quilt no problem. So you know, it's just a preference. I usually like to load the seams horizontal, but in this case I wanted to make sure that this orange panel was centered on the back, and the best way to do that is to load it this direction so that I can make sure that this seam is right down the middle. And so I just wanted to show you that. The pantograph on this one, I'll just flip this over this way. This is called No Fuss Orange Peel. This is done by Julie Hurt. She has an Etsy site called 627 Handworks, and I did use orange thread on this. That's what Jeannie asked for, so I did orange, and I love it. I just love it. The orange soaks so well into the orange fabrics, and the other fabrics are so busy that it's really, this pantograph is just adding so much texture, and I really like the look of the same color thread. So the thread, I wound my own bobbins, did the same color thread in the back as well, which was perfect because of all of the how orange the back is also. And this backing fabric is also part of that American Pop line, if I didn't mention that. So I love Julie Hurt's orange peel design. The way she has programmed this into your digital design software is that it does the rainbow. So you say over, 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 all the way down. Then on the next pass, on the next time, it comes back going right to left, and it does the underside of those orange peel pieces. And then when it gets there, then it does the over, 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 over. So you're doing half of it on one way going to the right, and then the other half on the other direction going left. And I love it. It's so much easier to line up. And I just think it's very ingenious of Julie to do that. So a very fun pantograph. The orange peel design on this one measures probably about 2.5 is what it looks like. Now you do have to be careful with this pantograph because the stops and starts are all to the left side. Just make sure your auto jump is off on your digital, or that it's set to, if your auto jump is on, then you just need to make sure that you actually set a stop point and don't let it just continue to go to the next one, because if your auto jump is set to 3 or 4 or something, it moves on to that next line and you may not have a room down at the bottom where your bars are. The way I get around that is for you to actually set a stop point. Put one of the red bullseyes right there, not just the red dot, but one of your red bullseyes, so that it knows to stop right there. And then you can fill up your entire throat space. It can do, left to right, right to left, until it gets to that red bullseye, and then it knows to stop. So, and then just make sure you have enough bobbin thread in there so it doesn't stop in the middle, and you can get your entire throat space filled up in one big working, one big not one big pass, because it's going to do each of the individual lines, but you won't have to move it yourself. So love, love, love this. I just think it is so, so fun. I did want to show you, I showed you the front of the pattern. Here is the back of the pattern. If you don't like the orange, then perhaps you could do it in the lighter color background. And it does say that additional color option available inside, so it could be that I don't know what that means on the pattern back, because they show you that right there, but it almost even looks like it's a little scrappier than just the solid colors. So you'll want to pick up this pattern if you like that one, and I have linked it down below. Hope you enjoyed those. So many pretty, pretty quilts. Thank you for letting me be a part of your life today. I hope things are well where you are, that you're enjoying springtime weather if you are in the Northern Hemisphere. Others of you, I hope you're enjoying fall. So I will be back here next week, because every quilt is worth finishing. We'll see you then.